This small island in the Aegean Sea was a decisive factor in the outcome of World War II. The island was called Abalone. On July 22nd, 1943, 5 gigantic cannons were brought to the island. It wasn't long before they were bombarding every spot on the globe, generally causing a terrible nuisance. What you're about to see is an account of how these fearsome leviathans were silenced. This is the story of the Guns of Abalone.
Send Captain Schneider in here.
I am Captain Schneider, General.
Well, you certainly got here fast. Schneider, form a group of commandos and destroy those guns the narrator was talking about.
To hear is to obey.
Thus came about the formation of Schneider's Raiders. To make a short story even shorter, Schneider's Raiders accomplished what they set out to do. The guns of Abalone were silenced, but not forever. 18 years later, a reunion was held on the second floor of a one-store building. Captain Schneider, older and wiser, proposed a toast to his comrades.
So drink, chug-a-lug, chug-a-lug, chug-a-lug. So drink, chug-a-lug.
Include me out, Captain.
What's wrong, Crenshaw? Are you driving tonight?
No, it's them headlines in the paper.
And there in black pica were the words, Guns of Abalone, renew firing.
The paper's wrong.
The paper was right. A worldwide appeal was launched for volunteers to destroy the cannons once and for all. Alas, not one volunteer stepped forward.
Hokey smoke, Bullwinkle, we're out of milk. One of us has got to run down to the store.
Leave it to me, Rock. I'll go.
Wouldn't you know it, those last two words, I'll go, were overheard by a newspaper reporter who relayed them to his editor, who relayed them to a linotype machine, who relayed them to page 1 of the Frostbite Falls Flyer.
Read all about it. Bullwinkle says he'll go.
Is it true, Bullwinkle? You're going to Abalone?
Oh, I never shop at Abalone's. Too crowded, you know. I always buy my groceries at the J&T.
You don't understand, Bullwinkle. Somehow or other, when you said you'd go, everyone assumed you'd volunteer to go to an island in the Aegean Sea.
What's wrong with the milk in this country?
It took Rocky the better part of the night to explain what had happened. In fact, he was still explaining aboard a jet airliner bound for Europe.
And if those cannons aren't taken care of, they could blow up the world.
What's that got to do with the price of milk?
We've nothing better to do, so let's jump ahead of our heroes to their eventual destination. Now, the island of Abalone isn't very large, yet the cannons are not easily discernible. That's because they are camouflaged. You see that small building with the 5 smokestacks? Well, those smokestacks are in reality smokestacks. The cannons are on the other side of the island, disguised as trees. Whoops, there they go.
Oh, boy, Boris, those things make loud booms.
You think this loud? Wait till world gets ransom note. Then you hear noise. I'm going to say, world, Boris will blow you up unless you give to me moose named Bullwinkle and squirrel named Rocky.
For why you let those two bug you?
Because, Natasha, I promised someone I rid hemisphere of all goodies.
Who you promise?
Me. Here, take shell and load number 1 canyon.
Yes, those two ne'er-do-wells, Boris Badenov and Natasha Fatal, were responsible for reactivating the guns of Abalone.
Who we aim for this time, darling?
Oh, we take potluck.
And the shell arched its way up into the sky, then took off on a straight line for the airplane carrying our heroes.
And that's one of the few straight lines in the show.
Will it be a direct hit? Will the real Bullwinkle stand up? Don't miss Falling Stars, or only a plumber should plummet.
It was once thought that taking the long count meant that someone had lost a boxing match. In the kingdom of Withering Heights, however, taking the long count simply meant that the very tall Count Basil had been swindled again. The poor Count was an easy dupe for any charlatan he chanced to meet.
Psst. Hey, Bud, how would you like to buy a stable of racing chickens?
Racing chickens? Nobody races chickens.
I know. You'll be the only one in the world. That way you'll never lose a race.
Say, that's right. I'll take it.
Then again, that same morning,
I'll bet you 1,000 to 1 you can't jump over 4 Mile Canyon. I'll hold the stakes.
of course, even the Count knew that he couldn't make it, but at 1,000 to 1, he couldn't resist the odds. This went on year after year, and finally, there came a day when the poor Count had nothing left to be swindled out of. His castle was repossessed, his riches were gone, he even had to give up his stable of racing chickens.
Oh, I really hate to see those chickens go, especially the trotters.
Penniless and in rags, the Count was forced to become a lowly wood chopper so that he could earn enough to buy bread and cheese.
A lowly wood breaker, to be exact, old boy. You see, I can't even afford to buy a ruddy axe.
Then, one morning, as he was going off through the forest to his daily task, he saw a beautiful bird. A sapsucker, I believe, with one of its wings caught in the branch of a tree.
I'm what you might say a sap and sucker myself.
Going to the branch, he released the tiny bird, whereupon it fluttered into the air, circled several times, and then, landing on his head, laid an egg in his hat. And with a cheery song, he flew away into the clouds.
I say, how nice.
He quickly made a fire and prepared to cook the egg, but, to his amazement, when he opened the egg, a gold coin fell out.
By Jove, what a generous and talented bird.
It was several days later, while making his usual trip into the woods, that he heard a familiar sound, and there, in the same tree, he saw the same bird caught on the same limb.
My word.
Once again, he released the bird, and just as before, it fluttered into the air, circled several times, landed on his head, laid an egg in his hat, and flew off into the sky. Quickly taking the egg, the Count broke it open, and this time 2 gold coins fell out.
Champion, a double yoker. Thank heaven for little birds.
The Count had 2 gold coins, but not for long. Less than 2 hours later, a fast-talking rogue had the coins, and the Count had a deed to the Atlantic Ocean.
Now, well, don't laugh. This might turn out to be a good investment someday. Well, back to the tree.
Yes, but when he arrived, the little bird was not there.
I wonder what could be keeping the little beggar. Oh, yes, here he is.
And this time, the Count was taking no chances. Instead of setting the bird free, he took it with him.
I shall never let you out of my sight again.
And for the next 6 months, the bird laid eggs in the hat, and the Count counted coins.
1,000,002, 1,000,003, 1,000,004, 1,000,000... What's this? An Indian head penny? Ooh. See, here we'll have none of that.
The marvelous little bird was able to lay eggs full of gold coins faster than the Count could be swindled out of them. So it was no time at all before the Count was richer than he'd ever been before. He was able to buy fine castles.
I'll take 2. They're small.
Had all of his clothes made from the most expensive material.
Let's see, that's 700 gold shirts, 600 silver sneakers, and 1,000 satin socks, right?
Quite. And don't forget the mink middies, okay?
He had everything he could wish for. He even bought back his stable of racing chickens. Rich and famous, he was the envy of every fair maiden in the kingdom, and, choosing the fairest and the most beautiful of all, he was married.
Dearest, I have a gift for you.
Oh, how nice. What is it?
It's the thing I treasure most. Me. No, seriously. This tiny bird to whom I owe everything.
A sapsucker. Oh, how nice.
His wife took the bird and was very pleased. It seemed as though the Count was most certainly destined to live happily ever after. But that very afternoon, tragedy struck.
Extra, extra! Read all about it!
Here, boy. Paper.
And when he read the headlines...
Snow White eats poison apple. Good grief.
What's the matter, mister? You look green.
Snow White. She ate the apple.
So what? Odds were 5 to 1 that she would.
I know, but I wagered everything I have in the world that she wouldn't. I've lost everything. I'm wiped out.
But remembering that he still had the little bird that laid eggs full of gold coins, he frantically rushed to his wife.
Dear, you know that little bird I gave you?
Yes.
How did you like it?
Oh, fine. It was delicious.
Ooh.
Ruined beyond words, the Count went back to the woods and sat under the old tree where he waited and waited for 100 years. But from that day to this, no one has ever found another sapsucker that laid eggs full of gold coins.
Thanks, Rock. It's also handy for breathing and ornamental purposes. Today, our subject is how to interview a scientist that is working on a secret project. We begin by finding a scientist.
Without a human subject to work on, the experiment is lost. But who would be stupid enough?
Pardon me, sir, but are you a scientist? Point 2 is to be subtle about getting to the subject of his project. If the project is secret, he may be reluctant to tell you. You doing anything interesting lately?
Certainly. Sit right here and I'll tell you all about it.
Let's see. Say, you mind if I ask you about your personal habits, problems, hobbies, and...
Certainly not. I just love to put this electronic ball on Moose's heads. It's a habit, a problem, and a hobby.
Fine. Now what about pets?
I'm glad you asked. My pet. Let's just put him here and put a nice ball on his head just like the one on yours. There.
Oh, yes. Is your current project related to the rocket field?
No.
Is your current project related to the atomic field?
No.
Well, what's the current then? The current. I want the current.
Gosh, Mr. Know-It-All, what happened? Now, how will you remember what the scientist is working on?
Oh, I can remember, Rock. I'm almost certain it is a brain transfer machine. Eeny, meeny, chilly, beany. The spirits are about to speak.
Are they friendly spirits?
Friendly? Just listen.
A secret project was under construction on the mountain directly above the RCMP camp. And one day, Inspector Fenwick saw a sign that read...
Top secret. That means whatever's going on is a top secret program. Well, no one's going to violate top secret security while I'm inspector. Send in Dudley Do-Right of the Mounties at once.
Dudley Do-Right of the Mounties reporting, sir.
Do-Right, undoubtedly you've noticed the activity that's going on directly above our camp. Well, I happen to know that it's top secret.
Could you speak up, sir?
Top secret! Confound you, Do-Right, keep your ears open. If this project were to be known to certain villainous types, the whole program would be for nothing.
What is the project, sir?
I don't know, Dudley. All I know is that it is top secret.
Mum's the word, sir.
What's the word, Dudley?
Mum, sir.
Oh, yes. Well, Dudley, to keep this certain villainous type from finding out about this top secret project...
Could you speak up, sir?
Top secret project!
What top secret project?
On the mountain directly above the RCMP camp, Nell.
Dudley, I thought you said mum's the word.
Mum it is, sir.
Oh, well, Do-Right. I want you to watch Snidely Whiplash 24 hours a day. Never let him out of your sight, otherwise I am certain he will find out some way of wrecking the project.
Yes, sir, Inspector, and remember, Nell, mum's the word.
All right. Mum, Dudley.
Mum, Nell.
There you are, sir, all finished.
Thank you, Baba.
Sorry to keep you waiting, sir.
But you don't understand.
Hey, impatient, eh? Well, this ain't gonna take long. There, now, that didn't take long.
Confound it, I've got to keep my eye on that man because mum is the word.
That'll be $1.20, please. No tip.
That was delicious, waiter. Check, please.
The check, sir?
What's that? Oh, the check. But you see, I must follow that man because, well, I can't tell you because mum is the word.
I see. Mum, huh? Well, I won't tell a soul. Just pay the check.
But you don't understand. I haven't any money. You are letting arch-villain Snidely Whiplash get away.
Of course I'm letting him get away. He paid his check.
Dudley? Dudley, I don't mind you picking up a little extra money, but not on mounted time. You were supposed to be watching arch-villain Snidely Whiplash, not freelancing dishwashing.
But, sir...
Quick, Do-Right, follow that man.
Is that an order, sir?
That's an order, Do-Right.
All right, what happened to the guy who couldn't pay his check?
Oh, you mean Dudley? Well, he's following his man.
Well, that doesn't get the dishes done, now does it?
Dishes?
Yeah, somebody gotta finish those dishes to pay for his check.
Do you have anyone in mind?
Yeah. You.
And I had a feeling he was going to say that.
Dudley Do-Right followed his man. No underworld dive could hide the elusive Snidely Whiplash from the Hawkeye's hawk-eyed Do-Right of the Mounties.
Gee, Inspector, where did you get those rough red hands?
You should know, Dudley. At least if you don't pay your check, find a restaurant that uses soft detergent.
I'm sorry, Inspector.
Have you been been keeping an eye on Snidely?
He's right over there, Inspector, eating a candied apple. Well, he was over there. That's funny.
Dudley, if I've washed those 3,041 dishes and you've lost Snidely Whiplash, I'm going to drum you out of the force.
I see him, Inspector.
Where is he, Dudley?
He's over there by the taffy pole.
Well, stick to him, man. Stick to him like glue.
And that's exactly what Dudley did. He stuck to Snidely like taffy. Finally, the big day arrived. The top secret project was finished, and at 3 o'clock was to be unveiled.
I want to tell you, Do-Right, you've done a splendid job in keeping an eye on Whiplash. I know you'll feel proud when the top secret project is unveiled to know that you had an important part in it.
It's 3 o'clock, sir.
Confounded Do-Right, it's all your fault. How can we function when arch-villain Snidely Whiplash is leering down on us like that?
What I can't understand is how he had the time to carve a big face like that. I've been with him all the time.
Well, I don't know how he did it, but I know one thing. You are going to climb up there and erase that big face, Do-Right, and I'm the double.
For days and days, Dudley worked on the mountain. And one day, it was finished.
Inspector, I did it.
Good work, Dudley. Is the face completely erased?
Better than that, Inspector. Look!
It's pretty hard to get peace and quiet these days, especially with the guns of Abalone spreading destruction all over the place.
Someone's got to silence those cannon.
Bullwinkle and Rocky were on their way, but it wasn't going to be easy.
Unless they send me Moose and Squirrel, I blow up Cotton Pekin World.
Alas, that shell was aimed directly at our hero's aircraft.
Quick, tell the pilot to make a 90-degree turn.
Bullwinkle dashed to the pilot's compartment, but the pilot was already aware of the situation and had parachuted to safety.
What'd he say, Bullwinkle?
Not a heck of a lot.
Well, if he doesn't make a turn, we're going to get blown up.
Prophetic words. Seconds later, all that remained was a black cloud. But when the cloud broke up, it revealed the wreckage of the plane, and the plane was sitting atop the Rock of Gibraltar.
It must have hit us just as we landed. We sure are lucky.
Some of us are, anyway.
Bullwinkle, you're hurt.
Oh, it's nothing, Rock. Few third-degree burns.
The smoldering moose was in need of medical attention, and the only place to get it on Gibraltar was the British Army Hospital. Britons, however, were notoriously healthy on the island, and the hospital had been converted into a billiard parlor.
Looks like they're busy operating.
Pardon us, gentlemen, but is there a...
Hush! Can't you see I'm in the midst of a devilishly ticklish shot?
Oh, shoot, Carruthers, you're beaten and you know it.
Not if I make this shot, I'm not.
Why don't you try putting a little English on the ball, seeing as how you're British and all that?
Exasperated, General Carruthers looked up just as he shot and neatly stuck his cue through the table.
Nice try.
Good Lord, that's torn it.
You've made me ruin this table, my favorite snooker table, and you've caused me to decimate it.
Well, couldn't you play miniature golf on it or something?
Guards, place these two under arrest.
But you don't understand, sir. I'm burned.
And you think I'm not?
The boys were unceremoniously dumped into a cell.
Oh, fine. Now how do we get to Abalone from here?
In 2 words, escape.
The walls are 2 feet thick. There aren't any windows, and the only door is airtight.
Well built, isn't it?
Seems to be some writing on the floor. Wait till I blow the dust off. Can you read what it says?
Not too well, no.
Monte Cristo was here. Hey, do you know what that means?
Yeah, some guy was in here making sandwiches.
No, the Count of Monte Cristo must have been imprisoned in this cell, and he got out. Said so in the book.
How long did it take him?
About 200 pages.
Well, we better hurry. I think we're on our last chapter.
Working feverishly, Rocky and Bullwinkle dug with their hands, attempting to discover a secret passage. Their efforts were soon rewarded.
That stone swings out.
Leave us swing out, too.
Into a passage they went, but due to the darkness, there was no way of knowing where it led.
Hey, I feel cool air blowing on me. You know what that means?
It means I'm breathing down your neck.
No, it means that we're approaching the entrance to this tunnel.
Oh, shucks. I was hoping it'd be an exit.
Bullwinkle, I think we're outside.
Well, strike a match for freedom, Rock.
And just like that, they were bathed in light.
Those are some matches you have.
It wasn't a match, but a row of searchlights that provided the sudden illumination. And beside them stood a firing squad.
The penalty for escape is instant liquidation. Sorry. Prepare to volley, chaps.
Uh-oh. Is this to be our hero's swan song? Don't miss I'm Out of Bullets or Pour Me Another Shot. Well, our boys are having a terrible time trying to destroy the guns of Abalone. For last time, you may recall, they were forced down on the Rock of Gibraltar and thrown into prison.
In the advertising game, this would be known as hard sell.
Not only hard, but seemingly escape-proof.
That sounded like the narrator's line, Rock.
Ingenuity and the fact that they couldn't spend an entire episode within four walls brought about a discovery of a secret passage.
Where do you suppose it leads?
Only one way to find out.
Ask somebody.
Nope. Follow me.
And the plucky little squirrel led the way. Unfortunately, he was plucky when he should have been lucky. The secret passage brought them before a firing squad.
Article 22 of the Gibraltar Constitution stipulates that all escapees must be dealt with severely.
Oh, please, sir, don't spank us.
Bullwinkle, they're gonna shoot us.
Take away our good conduct medals, but don't spank us.
Didn't you hear me?
Reprimand us, if you will. Call us names.
They're gonna shoot us.
How about that?
Elevate your weapons, men. Ready, aim.
Just a moment, Major.
Something wrong?
I thought it was customary for the condemned to be granted a last request.
Not according to our Constitution. Look for yourself.
And there on page 846 were the words, no last request for condemned men.
How about condemned mooses and flying squirrels?
Oh, well, that was different.
Very well, you may have a last request. What is it?
Not to be shot.
The request had to be granted. Thus, Bullwinkle and Rocky were given pardons and put aboard the first boat leaving for Bayonne, New Jersey.
Is that anywhere near the island of Abalone?
It better be.
This gives us a splendid opportunity to revisit Abalone and see how things are progressing. Yes, Boris is still at it.
How long you going to keep up bombardment, Boris?
I told you until World gives to me Bullwinkle and Rocky. Keep sending message on shortwave.
I keep sending, but nobody sends back.
Try Morse code.
Samuel B. Morse?
Samuel B., LMA, I don't care.
Meanwhile, Rocky and Bullwinkle were having problems of their own.
I said let go of the wheel.
But, Captain, you just gotta make us stop at Abalone and let us off.
This is the Bayonne Express, boys. And you know what express means.
Some kind of Italian coffee, isn't it?
It was just about that time that a nasty group of clouds formed overhead.
Captain, the barometer's falling.
Well, nail it back up.
Please, sir, won't you please put us off at Abalone?
Not now, Sonny. I don't like the way my ship is behaving.
The captain had ample reason for alarm. For the storm had suddenly increased to typhoon proportions, and the tiny vessel was buffeted about on the raging seas. By now, all hands were on deck, and even our heroes were garbed in sou'westers.
I wish I had a box of soda crackers tucked under my arm. I'd feel more secure.
I'd feel more secure with a different captain. I don't like the way he sticks his arm out the window every time he makes a left turn.
Engine room, can you hear me?
Aye, aye, Captain.
I need more steam to ride this squall out. More steam, you hear?
But, sir, it's hotter than Florida down here already.
Well, if you're hot, open a window.
Well, you don't open a porthole during a storm without suffering the consequences. The sea came in, and the fire went out.
Well, at least it's cooler.
I think our pace is slackened.
You're right. We're not going ahead anymore.
True, because they were now going down instead. Be with us next time for Seasick Bullwinkle or How Green Was My Moose.
You wait till your mother sees what you've done to your new Sunday toga, Junior.
Well, don't blame it on me, Pop. Blame it on Skinny Flavius's dog.
Skinny Flavius's dog is only 6 weeks old.
But that briar patch in our backyard isn't.
Is that what tore your toga?
Uh-huh. The dog was chasing me, and I jumped over the fence without looking.
By overlooking the briar patch, you overlook one of my most wisest sayings. Look before you leap.
Gosh, is that one of yours?
Yes, it is, and so is his fable. The country frog and the city frog. Once there was a frog, a poor country frog. His only possession was a small farm on which the only thing he could grow were gopher holes.
I got holes in my farm, holes in my shoes, and a hole in my head, or I wouldn't still be here.
That was the year the world discovered the game of golf.
4!
And as anyone can tell you, the object of the game is to put the ball in a hole. That was also the year there was a shortage of holes, but not on the frog's farm.
I'll give you 50,000 cash for 18 holes.
I'll make it 60,000.
The frog sold every gopher hole on his farm and overnight amassed a huge fortune.
I'm going to take me a roll of nickels, and I'm going to the big city. I'm going to have me a time.
And then he saw it, the Bijou Theater directly across the street. And on the marquee, the frog gets 50 beautiful dancing frogs. After purchasing a ticket, which incidentally was only a nickel, he took a seat in the very front row.
I have done died and gone to heaven.
One gorgeous creature in particular caught his fancy, the star of the show, Amphibian. Her performance so unnerved the simple frog that he began popping nickels into his mouth, thinking they were jelly beans. Amphibian had seen a lot of big spenders, but this looked like the biggest of them all.
By grannies, Miss Fabian, sure was neighborly of you to let me buy you this here expensive dinner.
I worship the bank you keep your money in, honey.
A mad courtship followed. Money was no object when it came to Amphibian. She spent nickels like they were pennies. There were nights at the opera, days at the races, and afternoons in the fur shop.
Buy me that Alaskan seal, would you, sweetheart?
How much is it?
Only 20,000 nickels.
Well, that sounds reasonable.
Needless to say, it wasn't long before the frog was down to his last nickel.
What are we going to do tonight, Frog, honey?
Well, I thought we'd go somewhere and make a phone call. Talk to the operator, things like that.
Let's get something straight, big boy. If you want me to be your honey, you gotta spend lots of money.
Well, in that case, you wait right here, you hear?
In an effort to raise money fast, he took the first job to come along, which happened to be in a circus.
Only thing we need right now is a high diver.
Tell me what to do.
You see that 5,000-foot platform? Dive off of that into this bucket.
Ain't that a mite dangerous?
Yeah, but it pays good.
Willing to risk anything, the frog ascended the ladder and poised athletically at the edge of the platform.
Ain't exactly leap year, but here goes.
The little frog jumped out into space and plunged like a rocket toward the bucket far below. But as luck would have it, the weather suddenly changed. A cold snap set in, and the water in the bucket froze solid. Well, there's nothing new about a frog diving into a bucket of ice, so he was fired.
What in the blue-eyed world am I gonna do? If I don't find me some money, I'll...
And then he saw it. In the gutter was a nickel.
Maybe my luck has changed.
He put the nickel in a weighing machine, and instead of a fortune, 2 nickels came out. Flushed with his newfound wealth, he dashed into a phone booth to call Amphibian. But instead of getting her number, 3 nickels fell out. On a bus that would take him to Anne's apartment. He dropped the 3 nickels into the coin receiver, and out came a transfer. He was as broke as ever.
Annie, honey, I'm Nicholas.
I don't care what your front name is, honey. I got news. Your broker sold the last of your gopher holes. Here's 10,000 nickels.
Hot, Ziggy, let's us go make a long-distance phone call.
Oh, no, you don't. This wouldn't last me a fortnight. You're going to enter a frog jumping contest and will win a fortune.
But, Anna, baby, I can't jump.
You won't have to, Green Eyes. We'll bet on another frog.
And so on the day of the jumping contest, the little frog took his place on the starting line.
Now, remember, love, don't jump a foot. You'll lose and we'll win.
He had to make it look good, so he took a few steps back to get set for a false effort. But not looking where he was going, he backed into a bush on which sat a bee. And the frog took off on the longest jump ever recorded by man. He won the contest, but he lost his money and Amphibian. So you see, Junior, look before you leap.
I got a better one, Pop.
Don't you always? All right, let's have it.
Once bitten, twice spry.
No, go play in the briar patch, son.
And here he is with an open mind and a hole in his head to prove it, Mr. Know-It-All.
Today's lecture is how to be an archaeologist and dig ancient history. The archaeologist must have a thorough knowledge of his subject, which is, archaeology. I have even gone so far as to read a book on it. To practice archaeology, we must travel to places which are famous for old relics, such as Pasadena or even Egypt. Excuse me, are you Abdul Ben Boris?
I ain't Rudolph Valentino, kid.
I want to go to the pyramid. How much will it cost?
Ah, the Pyramid Club. Well, there's $20 cover charge and $30 minimum. Of course, if you want dinner, is more.
Not the Pyramid Club. I want to go to the actual pyramids.
What for? There's no action there. Is a drag.
I don't care. How much?
Well, regular $40, for you $50.
That sounds reasonable. The walls inside these pyramids are covered with ancient hieroglyphics.
With a little elbow grease, we can clean them off.
Here's an interesting specimen. Let's see how my hieroglyphic English dictionary translates it. Pharaoh loves Zelda. That's sweet. Here we are in the main burial chamber. You will note the interesting form...
Okay, boys, bring stuff in. Put popcorn machine there, hot dog stand there.
Hey, what is this?
This is new attraction, Pyramid Land. Come on, boys, the tourists are waiting.
Well, thank you, Mr. Know-It-All.
You're welcome.
Hello again, Peabody here. Sherman, what does the word Sphinx make you think of?
Skunk?
Oh, dear. Never mind. Today we are going to Egypt to witness the true story behind the building of the first Great Pyramid. Getting right down to the business at hand, I instructed Sherman to set the wayback for the year 3000 BC, and the place, Giza, on the border of the Libyan desert. Needless to say, the wayback responded beautifully, slammed into high gear, and in less than an instant, we were standing inside the palace of Cheops, second king of the 4th dynasty. However, it appeared as though we had arrived at a rather bad time.
By the beard of the sacred flamingo, I won't have it.
I beg your pardon, Your Highness, but what seems to be the trouble?
My mustache. That is what's the trouble.
Mustache? But you don't have a mustache.
I do over there.
He directed our eyes to a huge painting of himself on the far side of the room that covered the entire wall. Sure enough, it had a large black mustache on it.
It took 300 slaves 2 years to paint that magnificent picture of me. Then he comes along and puts a mustache on it.
And whom, might I ask, is he?
The evil Prince Ahmed Fez.
Is he your arch enemy?
Yes, and he is also just 5 years old. If he wasn't my nephew, I'd...
His words were cut short by a large pimento cream pie full in the face. This little beast, I take it, is Prince Ahmed Fez?
The third.
Gosh, you mean there were 2 more like him? Ouch!
Ooh, that Ahmed. I'll feed him to the camels. I'll...
Sire, you must remember he's only a child. Perhaps
nothing. This time I will build a swimming pool shaped like King Farouk. It will be the biggest swimming pool in the world. I'd like to see him wreck that.
He can't paint a mustache on it either. But poor Cheops is still on the wrong track, Mr. Peabody.
Construction began immediately, and in what even I consider record time, the pool was completed.
It's done. This pool will go down in history as a great wonder of the world.
I'm sorry, sire, but I'm afraid it's about to go up in the air as another failure. It seemed as if dear little Prince Ahmed had obtained some gunpowder on a recent trip to China, and this gave me a brilliant idea.
It's no use. I give up.
No need for that, sire. I have a plan.
Mr. Peabody always has a plan, Your Highness. Why, one time he...
Never mind, Sherman. I'll give him an autographed copy of my memoirs before we leave. I took a pencil and some papyrus and quickly drew some very complicated plans.
What is this?
It is the monument you are going to build to yourself, a pyramid.
Pyramid? Say, I like this idea. But what about Prince Ahmed?
You leave him to me. Just make certain the pyramid is constructed exactly as I have indicated. Every slave in the kingdom was called to the task. Huge stones were quarried, shaved to the precise size, and rolled into position. 40 days and 30 nights later, the project was complete.
Beautiful. Wonderful.
Mr. Peabody, I never thought I'd live to see the day.
What day is that, Sherman?
The day you would make a mistake. Look, you designed the pyramid upside down. It's standing on its point.
I'm surprised at you, Sherman. That is the most perfectly precogitated part of my plan. Remember, Ahmed the Terrible is still lurking about with his gunpowder and... there he is now, right on schedule. Inasmuch as I had designed the monument with this in mind, the pyramid was not damaged a bit. It simply flew into the air, turned over 3.5 times, and then... settled to earth in its proper position.
Perfect. Oh, Mr. Peabody, can you ever forgive me for doubting your velocity?
I suppose so, Sherman, but that is veracity. At this point, the problem was solved. The world now had one of its 7 wonders.
What about Prince Ahmed? Won't he cause more trouble?
Not when you consider the pyramid is 481 feet high, and there is a fine, spanking breeze at the top. You see, Sherman, I managed to get to the seat of most any problem.
Gee, it was sure nice of King Cheops to invite us to dinner, Mr. Peabody. Yum. This is delicious. I wonder what it is.
It's just something else His Highness is famous for. In fact, this particular dish was named after him.
You don't mean...
That's right, Sherman. Lamb Cheops.
What a fiendish way to get revenge.
I don't want revenge. I want Rocky and Bullwinkle.
Little does Boris know that Rocky and Bullwinkle have volunteered to silence the guns of Abalone. Unfortunately, they have run into a number of obstacles, among them a storm at sea, which has caused their ship to begin sinking right under their feet.
Where else?
Quick, we gotta tell the captain to abandon ship.
Well, you can look it up in the almanac. You'll see that particular storm lasted 14 days. And when it cleared, the good ship Lollipop was no longer afloat. But one of her longboats was, crammed with passengers and crew.
Engine room, why don't you answer?
Maybe they went out to lunch.
Captain, the men from the engine room are right here in this rowboat. Your ship sank.
And it looked as if this one would too, for suddenly out of nowhere, huge shells came screaming by.
It must be the guns of Abalone.
They shouldn't let those fish have guns.
Bullwinkle, we may have a chance to carry out our mission.
Yeah.
Under Rocky's able command, the longboat pushed through the water until eventually it came to rest on the sands of the island of Abalone.
Okay, now I need an alarm clock and a few sticks of TNT.
Luckily, one of the crew members had salvaged those very items before the ship went down. It didn't take the nimble squirrel long to fashion a time bomb.
You fellers wait right here while Rock and I go blow up the cannons.
What right have you got to give orders?
It's my show.
Oh.
Through nook and crannies, over Smith and Dale's, they crept and crawled, inching their way even closer to the site where the gigantic guns stood.
But Boris, darling, is getting Moose and Squirrel worth blowing up world bit by bit.
I will not dignify the question with an answer, Natasha. Load the cannon.
Bullwinkle, I think I've heard that voice before.
Wouldn't be H.V. Kaltenborn, would it?
Stand back, Natasha. I'm going to shoot all 5 cannons at once.
But Boris, honey, baby, you will blow up everything.
So what? Moose and Squirrel has not showed up. I got nothing to live for.
I beg to differ with you, but Moose and Squirrel has showed up. In fact, we've been showed up quite a few times.
It's them, the blight of my life. Hand me my pistol.
No got pistol, Boris. All we got is these big cannons.
That's good enough. Help me aim.
Throw the time bomb, Bullwinkle.
What time bomb, Rock?
The one I made.
Oh, that one. Now, where'd I put that thing?
While Bullwinkle searched, the guns of Abalone were lowered into firing position.
Maybe you dropped it somewhere.
And just as Bullwinkle leaned over to look for the bomb, fire! Unfortunately for Boris, he had aimed all 5 cannons right at each other. The guns were completely destroyed. Boris and Natasha were transported to the proper authorities and received severe reprimands for their behavior, also 20 years each. As for Bullwinkle and Rocky, exhausted after their trying ordeal, they returned home and immediately went to bed.
Oh, boy, I could sleep for a week.
Me too.
Say, did you ever find the time bomb?
What time bomb?
never mind. Set the clock for 7 tomorrow morning.
I already did.
Fellas, I think it's only fair to warn you that the time bomb is on the table ticking away.
Doesn't matter.
Well, why not?
That clock always runs slow.
Well, yes, but it... Oh, never mind. Be with us again next time for a different adventure. Maybe with 2 different stars. Run slow. Minnesota, in the lower regions of the high country. In the middle of Lake Saldebane, Boris Badenov and his partner Natasha were enjoying the tranquility of unspoiled nature, the warm sunshine, the fresh air.
Boris, why you're coughing?
I'm used to breathing good old city smog, Natasha. This fresh air is killing me.
Then why we're here in this silly boat?
It's not a silly boat, it's a glass-bottom boat.
Sounds pretty silly to me.
Look down there, Natasha. What do you see?
I see funny-looking nose, little mustache. Looks very familiar.
It should. That's my reflection. I forgot to clean the glass. Wait. There. Now what do you see?
I see great big X.
Aha! We are in the right spot.
Right spot?
Of course. Look here at this treasure map. X marks it this spot.
Treasure map?
This is map showing the lost treasure of Montezuma.
You mean Montezuma, old Aztec Indian?
No, Montezuma, the big race car driver.
Was he rich?
Was he rich? Just ask me.
Okay, was he rich?
Rich enough to bury a treasure at the bottom of this lake, that's all, honey bun.
Yeah, but how do we get it?
Easy. We blow up the dam and let the water run out.
But if we blow up dam, water will rush down on innocent people in Frostbite Falls.
True, true.
Oh, Boris, you are mean, sneaking, no good Nick.
I know. Mr. Wonderful, that's I'm...
And so the 2 villains prepared to blow up the dam, never remembering that our heroes, Bullwinkle and Rocky, always arrive in the ta-da nick of time.
Don't be silly. I want them to arrive in the ta-da nick of time.
You do?
And I'm ready. Observe. World's only patented Dreamsville moose horn.
Dreamsville moose horn?
Sure. When I blow it, moose will forget about everything else in the world.
Including dynamite.
Right. Bullwinkle really digs that crazy cool Northwood sound.
But what about Squirrel?
For him, I got a gun.
Just plain gun?
Look, I can't be tricky all the time. I got other things to think about. Now let's put dynamite on them.
Meanwhile, not too far away as the crow flies...
That's me.
Were Bullwinkle and Rocky, charter members of the Frostbite Falls Bird Watching and Pinochle Society.
Unfortunately, today is the day for bird watching.
Put down 1 crow, Bullwinkle.
1 crow.
You spell that with a C, friend.
Oh, thanks.
No E on the end.
Get out of here, you smart aleck crow.
Bullwinkle, that's one of our little feathered friends.
Friends, my eye. I joined the club to watch 'em. I don't have to like 'em.
Well, here, it's your turn to take the glasses. I'll write down all the birds you see.
Okay, let's see. 1 tufted titmouse.
Check.
1 black-capped chickadee.
Check.
No, chick.
Check.
Chickadee?
No, check.
Forget it. Put down robin redbreast.
Okay.
1 yellow-bellied sapsucker.
Check.
No, cross that out. I can't stand a coward.
Oh, come on, Bullwinkle.
All right. Say, there's a big-nosed fuse lighter.
A big-nosed fuse lighter, male or female?
There's 1 of each.
Let me see those glasses. Bullwinkle, those are saboteurs.
1 or 2 bees.
We gotta stop them.
And desert my bird-watching post. Never.
And Bullwinkle, our hero, mind you, refused to move. While on the dam, the fuse burns shorter and shorter. Don't miss our next episode, Floodwaters or Drown in the Valley.
And now...
Hey, Rocky, watch me pull a rabbit out of my hat.
Again?
Nothing up my sleeve. Presto! Ooh, don't know my own strength.
Now here's something we hope you'll really like.
Once upon a time, far, far away, there were many people who lived in the kingdom of Nottingham. Nottingham was just like any other kingdom except for one thing. Nothing ever happened there.
What are you doing, dear?
Nothing. What are you doing?
Nothing. Guess what we're having for dinner?
Nothing?
Yes, under glass yet.
And so it was, year after year. Now, nothing more would ever have been said about Nottingham, but for one thing. One day, something happened. A storyteller who'd been traveling about from kingdom to kingdom collecting stories came to see the king.
That's right. You tell me a story that's happened in your kingdom, and I'll put it in my book.
Knowing full well that he dare not tell the storyteller that nothing had ever happened in Nottingham, the king quickly struck upon a clever plan.
I must say, you certainly have a nose for news, young man. There now. Take a look at that.
Oh, what is it?
This is my daughter, a beautiful princess. Aren't you, sweetie?
Yeah, but I'm almost 32 and nothing's ever
Never mind. Word has it that she's about to become a keen story.
Say, this is luck.
Things will start popping any minute now.
Going to the royal tailor, he quickly had a fairy godmother disguise made for himself.
How's that, sire?
Oh, it's fine. Girdle's a little tight, though.
Dashing out of the castle, he found a poor but handsome young lad who was working as a hole digger in the fields. Then...
Ting-a-ling! Ting-a-ling!
Good heavens, that's the biggest gopher I've ever seen. I'll smash him with my shovel.
Hold on! I'm not a gopher. I am your fairy godmother. With a tap of my magic wand, you can now marry the princess.
The young lad ran off happy as a lark. But the wily king took a shortcut, and he was at the castle to meet him.
Who are you?
I have come to marry your daughter, the princess.
I'm 32, and this is the first time anything...
Never mind.
My fairy godmother told me so.
You hear that? Fairy godmother.
I got it.
First, you must prove that you are brave. You must rescue her from the terrible troll.
But the terrible troll doesn't have her.
He will. Wait here.
And dashing to the phone.
Hello, terrible troll? Yeah, it's me, the king. What's that? No, I haven't heard any good jokes, but listen, I have a little business proposition I want to make to you. If you can get over here and say, 5 minutes. Now, as I was saying, you must prove your bravery by rescuing my daughter from the troll.
A troll!
Right on cue.
Snatching the frightened princess, the troll carried her out of the castle and off into the hills.
There! Rescue her!
Yes, sire!
Are you getting this?
How do you spell troll? 1 L or 2?
Changing into his fairy godmother disguise, the king ran up the road where he met the young lad.
Take this magic stick. For one blow with this, we'll drop the troll in his tracks.
Of course, it really wasn't a magic stick. And the troll dropped to the ground. Then, taking the princess, he started back to the castle.
48, 49, 50. $50 for you to take a dive.
Any time, Highness. Say, did you ever hear the joke about the traveling ogre who...
No time for that. I gotta go.
And he hurried back to the castle.
I defeated the troll, and here is your daughter, sire.
Defeated troll. Here's daughter. Got that?
Yep.
Now you must make your fortune, so you'll be rich.
How am I going to do that?
How should I know? Go ask your fairy godmother.
The king ran down to the royal treasury, where he took a huge chest of gold. Then he buried it under a tall tree, and before long...
Fairy godmother!
Ting-a-ling! Here I am! And if you will push over this tall tree, you will find a fortune in gold.
The boy pushed over the tree.
Say, I'm terribly sorry about that.
Never mind. Did you find the gold?
Yes.
Then take it to the castle, for heaven's sakes.
The boy started off, but the chest was heavy, and the king arrived well ahead of him.
And he found a chest of gold under a tree. He should be here any minute.
Sensational. What an ending. He and the princess can live happily ever after.
So they waited and waited and waited, but the young man did not arrive. Finally, after 6 weeks...
You know that young lad with the chest of gold you're waiting for?
Yes.
Well, he's not coming. He met a milkmaid from Altadena on the way to the castle and ran off with her.
Oh, no.
Well, I can't write a story without a happy ending. No movie sale, you know. Too bad, too. You had a good one going there for you.
The king flew into such a rage at this turn of events that he hurled his throne out of the window. And it chanced to strike a transient witch who was passing through.
All right. Who threw the throne?
I did. What about it?
This about it?
And the angry witch cast a spell on the king, changing him into a homely, scrawny little duck. Upon seeing this, the storyteller wrote a fine little fairy tale, The Ugly Duck King. Oh.
Hi there, culture lovers. Today's poem is called The Wind. Wind machine, please. I saw you toss the kites on high and blow the birds about the sky. And all day long I heard you pass like ladies' skirts across the grass. Oh, wind, blowing all day long. Oh, wind that sings so loud. Uh-oh. Oh, you that are so strong and cold. Ding-dong hurricane is what? Oh, blower, are you young? Well, there goes the poem. Turn it off! Turn it off! Boy, what kind of wind machine was that?
Your kind, Moose.
My kind?
Sure. Big blowhard.
Who was it that said, watch the birdie, Sherman?
Arnold Palmer?
Well, he might have said it too, but the one I was thinking of was John James Audubon, the world's most renowned ornithologist.
What's an ornithologist?
A studier of birds.
That's Arnold Palmer.
Rather than continue the conversation any further, I set the Wayback Machine for the year 1824. As for our destination, it was rather close at hand, New York City itself. We found Audubon inside an attic he was using as a studio.
Look, Mr. Peabody, he's painting a picture.
Yes, from the looks of it, he's completing his celebrated book, For the Birds. We moved closer to observe his work, but instead of a picture of a rare bird, the words, I quit, were scrawled across the canvas.
How come you're going to quit, Mr. Audubon?
My final portrait is supposed to be of a Zebrady's chicken, but you can't paint a Zebrady's chicken without a Zebrady's chicken.
You mean you can't get one?
I mean, I can't keep one. I've had 4 the past 2 weeks. In fact, I'm expecting one by Chicken Express any moment.
The attic door swung open, and there stood a messenger with a 5th Zebrady's chicken. After signing for it, Audubon set the bird on a pedestal and took his brush in hand.
Now watch what happens.
No sooner had he uttered those words than the lights went out. Ah! When I found the light switch...
Mr. Peabody, it's gone.
All that remained were a few bent feathers and a subway locker ticket.
Now, you see, this is what happened to all the rest.
Yeah, but we got a clue, Mr. Audubon. All we have to do is look for somebody who lost some bent feathers.
Those obviously came from the chicken, Sherman. What about the locker ticket?
That must have belonged to the chicken, too.
Hardly, Sherman. Whoever dropped this ticket is our chicken napper.
And by going to the subway and waiting by this particular locker, we should nab the culprit.
You leave it to me. I'll solve this mystery.
And so, with Sherman in the lead, we dashed to the subway and took up an observation post where we could keep an eye on the locker in question. There, unless I miss my guest, and it would be the first time, comes our mystery man. Sure enough, out of the shadows came a sinister figure who went directly to the locker, opened it, and took out a brown package about the size of one Zebrady's chicken.
That's him. Let's jump him.
Sherman, this is all a waste of time and effort. You see, but before I could finish, Sherman made a beeline for his quarry, who made an L turn into the A train.
Don't let him get away.
The 3 of us jumped aboard just as it pulled out of the station.
Look at him, Mr. Peabody. He's acting mighty peculiar.
Yes, I think you could call hanging from the straps by your feet peculiar. What next, Sherlock?
We better not make him suspicious.
And so, under Sherman's instructions, we too adopted this somewhat unorthodox method of riding the subway. But not for long. We passed through a tunnel and reached the end of the line, and the end of the chase, so it appeared, for our suspect was no longer with us.
It's no use. We've lost him. Now I shall never finish my book.
Our course of action is obvious, Mr. Peabody.
To you, perhaps, but not to me. This entire affair can be straightened out back at Audubon's attic. But my suggestion went unheeded, for suddenly Sherman's private eye caught sight of our sinister figure darting into a very unhandsome cab. We were off again, and this time didn't stop till we reached the waterfront. A dense fog had got lost on its way to San Francisco and enshrouded the entire area.
Never fear, Mr. Audubon. We'll get him yet.
Time and my patience were running out. Sherman, you are after the wrong man.
The only way to find out is to catch him and see. But how can we do that in this fog?
Elementary, my dear Sherman. What is this fog as thick as?
Pea soup.
And that's where we found him, in a shabby restaurant behind a bowl of pea soup.
Now we got you, you old Zebrady's chicken napper, you.
Sherman, cease and desist.
But, Mr. Peabody...
I have been telling you all along you've got the wrong man.
You mean the Zebrides chicken isn't in that package?
Far from it. I pointed to a sign on the wall advertising the sale of tough steaks.
What's that got to do with what's inside the package?
Everything. And upon opening the package, Sherman found it contained an extra supply of very sharp false teeth.
Friend of mine loans these to me when I have dinner here.
Wasting no more time, we apologized to the man and headed to Audubon's attic. Along the way, we picked up another Zebrides chicken, and Audubon was able to complete his book on schedule.
Then who took the chickens, Mr. Peabody?
Alistair, the cook. With that, I ushered Sherman into the kitchen.
Tonight we got chicken soup.
Zebrides chicken soup. Alistair assumed the chickens were for cooking purposes.
Is that a picture of a Zebrides chicken, Mr. Peabody?
Oh, no. That is a picture of a revolutionary spy-catching chicken. The type that specialized in nabbing Tory spies.
I never heard of that kind of chicken before, Mr. Peabody.
You never heard of chicken cacciatore?
Last time, you remember, Boris and Natasha were preparing to blow up a dam in order to find hidden treasure.
Yes, it's the lost treasure of Montezuma.
Not now it isn't, darling.
What you mean, Natasha? He said like a good straight man.
Now it's the found treasure of Montezuma.
Oh, boy.
And although our hero Bullwinkle spotted the villains while birdwatching, he refused to go after them.
Never!
But this is more important than bird watching, Bullwinkle. If they blow up the dam, think of what'll happen to all those poor people in Frostbite Falls.
Those poor people will get mighty soggy.
Well, let's go.
Not so fast, Rock. We're the heroes, remember?
So
the heroes always arrive in the ta-da nick of time. I don't want to show up early and spoil the suspense.
And I don't want to show up late and get blown up.
You got a point there. Heck with the suspense. Let's go!
But what Bullwinkle and Rocky didn't know was that Boris Badenov was waiting for them with not one but two weapons, a Dreamsville moose horn and a squirrel gun.
I blow moose horn and Moose forgets all about dynamite until kaboom!
And what about Squirrel? He also get kaboom?
No, for him is pum pum with squirrel gun.
And so as Bullwinkle and Rocky dashed onto the dam and reached for the fuse, Boris raised the fatal Dreamsville moose horn to his lips and
the one and the two and...
Boris. Boris.
Natasha, I think I've lost my lip.
I think you got a duck horn instead of a moose horn.
Could be you're right. Kinda crazy sound, though.
Real cool, Daddy-O, but it doesn't stop Moose and Squirrel.
Don't worry, I still got squirrel gun.
So use it.
Okay, ready, aim, fire. What's that?
Boris, we forgot. There's no violence allowed on television anymore.
Well, Bullwinkle, we did it. We arrived in the ta-da nick of time.
We always arrive in the ta-da nick of time. The ta-da nick of time.
You said that.
I know, I just love to go ta-da.
Well, all is lost, Natasha. Might as well throw away the treasure map.
Why not just pull the plug at the bottom of lake?
Pull the plug?
Yes, look.
Raskolnikov!
Sure enough, the treasure map indicated a large plug at the bottom of Saldabane Lake.
See, the chain leads to this float in the middle of the lake.
So a little later, Boris was at the float and tugging at the chain that would empty the lake and reveal the lost treasure of Montezuma. A little later, he was still tugging. Much later, he was still tugging.
Gee, I wonder what happened to the saboteurs who were trying to blow up the dam.
Well, they wouldn't hang around.
Help! SOS, help!
What's that?
Sounds like somebody in trouble on the lake. Come on!
And within a few minutes, Bullwinkle had crashed his way to the side of Boris's boat.
What's all the trouble?
Allow me to introduce myself. I'm Spencer Traceback, the famous actor.
Yeah, I saw you in that picture about the old man fighting with the great big fish. Keen picture.
Thanks, Kit. But I got a fish here that's even bigger and I need help to drag it in.
Well, I'm your man.
Moose.
Yeah, Moose.
And Bullwinkle began pulling on the chain, which would pull the plug, which would empty the lake, which would uncover the treasure, which would...
Mister, you got a bad case of which wood's there.
I know. Anyway, be with us next time for A Leak in the Lake or The Drain Maker.